Ambassador Heejin Kang stood before the massive chamber of the Galactic Council. The room stretched up so high that she could barely see the ceiling. Hundreds of alien species sat in their seats, looking down at her. Some had scales, others had fur, and many looked like nothing she had ever imagined. Their eyes watched her with something that made her stomach turn. It was not respect. It was pity. She had been Earth's voice to the galaxy for 3 years now. Every time she spoke, they listened politely and then ignored everything she said. Humans were Tier 3. That meant they were at the bottom. They had no power, no voice, and no future unless the Council allowed it. Today felt different. The air was heavy. High Arbiter Vextal sat on his throne at the center of the chamber. His reptilian face showed no emotion, but his tail moved slowly from side to side. That was never a good sign. Ambassador Kang, Vextal's voice echoed through the chamber. We have discovered that Earth is developing quantum drive technology. This is forbidden. Heejin felt her heart race, but she kept her face calm. High Arbiter, our research is purely for defensive purposes. We only want to protect our system. A sound like laughter rippled through the chamber. The aliens were amused. Vextal raised one clawed hand and the noise stopped instantly. Tier 3 species do not get to decide what they need, he said coldly. You will dismantle your quantum drive program. You have 3 weeks. If you refuse, Earth will face complete trade sanctions. No technology, no medicine, no contact with any council species. Your world will be alone. Heejin opened her mouth to protest, but Vextal was already standing. The session was over. As she walked out of the chamber, she could feel their eyes on her back. They thought humans were nothing. They thought Earth would surrender like every other species had done before. Back on Earth, Admiral Jiwoo Park sat in the underground command center beneath Seoul. The walls were covered with screens showing data, star maps, and live feeds from space. She was 53 years old and had spent 30 years in the military. Her gray hair was tied back tightly, and her dark eyes missed nothing. The door opened and Dr. Bora Choi rushed in. She was younger, maybe 40, with messy hair and coffee stains on her lab coat. She had been working on the quantum drive for 2 years without sleep or rest. Admiral, I heard about the Council's ultimatum, Bora said breathlessly. We cannot let them shut us down. The quantum drive works. I tested it yesterday. Jiwoo stood up. You tested it? I gave no authorization for a test. It was a small test. Very small. Bora pulled up a hologram from her tablet. It showed a complex web of energy patterns. The drive bent space itself. We can travel faster than anything the Council has. Much faster. Jiwoo studied the data carefully. If this was real, it changed everything. But there was a problem. The Council has spy drones watching our entire solar system. If we test the drive on a real ship, they will detect it immediately. The door opened again. This time it was Captain Tae-young Lee. He was 35 and had the confident walk of someone who had never lost a fight. He commanded the Resolute, Earth's newest and fastest frigate. I have an idea, Tae-young said. He walked to the star map and pointed at Jupiter. The magnetic field around Jupiter is massive. It creates interference that scrambles sensors. If we test the drive there, in Jupiter's shadow, the Council drones will not see us. Jiwoo looked at Bora. Can you install the drive on the Resolute in 3 weeks? Bora nodded. If we work day and night, yes. But Admiral, if something goes wrong, the ship could be destroyed. The crew could die. I know the risks, Tae-young said firmly. My crew knows them too. We volunteer for this. Jiwoo walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Seoul glowing in the night. Millions of people going about their lives, not knowing that their future hung by a thread. For 30 years, Earth had played by the Council's rules. They had accepted the restrictions, the humiliation, the constant reminders that humans were inferior. Not anymore. Do it, she said quietly. Install the drive. Prepare the test. But keep it absolutely secret. If the Council finds out before we are ready, they will not wait for the deadline. They will attack. Over the next 2 weeks, Bora and her team worked like machines. They barely ate or slept. The quantum drive was carefully installed in the Resolute's engine core. It was a beautiful piece of technology, glowing with blue light and humming with contained power. Captain Tae-young spent the time training his crew. They ran simulations over and over. Every pilot, every engineer, every technician knew their job perfectly. They had to. There would be no second chances. Ambassador Hee-jin returned from the council and went straight to see Admiral Ji-woo. She looked tired and angry. "They will not negotiate," she said. "I tried everything. They see us as children playing with matches. They truly believe we will obey them." Ji-woo smiled grimly. "Then they are in for a surprise." On the day of the test, the Resolute launched quietly from Earth orbit. It looked like a routine patrol mission. The Council spy drones tracked it lazily, not seeing any threat. The frigate was small and slow by Council standards. What harm could it possibly do? As the Resolute approached Jupiter, Tae-young gave the order to activate the quantum drive. Engineer Sung Ho-jang's hand shook slightly as he pressed the controls. The drive began to power up. The ship vibrated. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around them. "Drive at full power," Sung Ho reported. "All systems stable." Tae-young looked at his navigation officer, Lieutenant Yoon Ji-nam. She was young, barely 25, but her mind could calculate jump coordinates faster than any computer. "Plot a short jump," he ordered. 50 light years. Let us see what this machine can really do." Yoon-ji's fingers flew over her console. "Coordinates locked. Ready to jump on your command." Tae-young took a deep breath. This was the moment. Either the quantum drive would work, or they would all die in the next few seconds. "Jump," he said. Reality twisted. The stars stretched into lines. For one impossible moment, Tae-young felt like he existed everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Then everything snapped back into focus. They were 50 light years from Jupiter. The jump had taken 3 seconds. The bridge erupted in cheers. They had done it. Humans had created faster-than-light technology that made council ships look like ancient sailing vessels. But the celebration died quickly. Sung Ho's face went pale as he stared at his sensors. "Captain," he said quietly, "we are not alone. There is a council patrol ship. They detected our jump signature." Back at the council spy station orbiting Jupiter, the drone operator stared at his screen in confusion. The human ship had been there one moment, and then it simply vanished. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. He sent an urgent message to High Arbiter Vextal. When the message arrived, Vextal read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. Then his eyes narrowed to slits. The humans had defied him. They had not only continued their research, they had actually tested their forbidden technology. This could not be allowed to stand. "Send the enforcers," he ordered. "Earth must learn what happens to species who break our laws." Captain Tae-young stared at the sensor readings. The Council patrol ship was 12,000 kilometers away and closing fast. Its weapons were charging. There was no way to talk their way out of this. "Options," he said sharply. Lieutenant Yoon-ji worked her console frantically. "We can jump again, but I need 30 seconds to calculate safe coordinates. If I rush it, we could end up inside a star." "We do not have 30 seconds, Engineer Sung Ho said. His voice was tight with fear. "That patrol ship will be in firing range in 20. Tae-young made a decision. It was probably a stupid one, but it was the only option they had. "Yoon-ji, plot a blind jump anywhere, just get us out of here." "Captain, a blind jump could kill us all." "That patrol ship will definitely kill us all. Jump. Now." Yoon-ji grabbed the closest safe coordinates she could find and activated the quantum drive. The Resolute jumped just as the council ship fired. The energy blast tore through empty space where they had been a fraction of a second earlier. When reality stabilized again, the crew of the Resolute found themselves staring at something impossible. They were 500 light years from Earth. The jump had taken 4 seconds. But that was not the impossible part. In front of them floated a structure so massive it blocked out the stars. It was a station, but not like any station humanity had ever built or seen. The design was alien, but not in the way council architecture was alien. This was something else entirely. "Something ancient, what is that?" Sung Ho whispered. Tae-young studied the readings. The station was huge, maybe the size of a small moon. It was clearly very old, but despite its age, it was still generating power. Faint energy signatures pulsed through its structure like a slow heartbeat. "Send all sensor data back to Earth," he ordered. "Dr. Choi needs to see this." On Earth, Admiral Ji-woo had been watching the test with her heart in her throat. When the Resolute disappeared from sensors, she thought they had been destroyed. When the data packet arrived from 500 light-years away, she almost could not believe it. Dr. Bo-ra Choi burst into the command center minutes later. Her eyes were wild with excitement and fear. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, pulling up holographic images of the ancient station. "This technology does not match anything in the Council database. The mathematical principles are completely different. More advanced." "How much more advanced?" Ji-woo asked. Bo-ra hesitated. "Thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands. This station predates the Galactic Council itself." Back at the station, Captain Tae-young assembled a small team to go aboard. Along with Lieutenant Yoon-ji and Engineer Sung-ho, he brought Dr. Mi-sun Hwang, the Resolute's xenoarchaeologist. She was 50 years old and had spent her entire career studying dead civilizations. Her hands trembled as she put on her spacesuit. "This is the discovery of a lifetime," she said quietly. "Maybe the discovery of 100 lifetimes." They approached the station in a small shuttle. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. Dr. Mi-sun recorded everything with her scanner. "These symbols," she said, "they are mathematical equations. This entire station is covered in mathematical language. They found an airlock that was still functional. When they approached, it opened automatically, as if it had been waiting for visitors." Inside, the station was dark except for faint strips of light along the corridors. The air was breathable. The gravity was comfortable. Everything about the place felt designed for beings roughly human-sized. As they moved deeper into the station, lights began to activate around them. Then suddenly a hologram appeared in the center of the corridor. It showed a being that looked almost human, but not quite. Its proportions were slightly different. Its eyes were larger. Its skin had a faint shimmer. The hologram spoke. The language was alien, but the station's computer quickly began translating it into English. The translation appeared as text floating beside the image. "If you are seeing this, then you have found us. We are the architects. We built this station 50,000 years ago as a message to whoever comes after us. We were a species of scientists and explorers. We believed in knowledge and freedom. The galaxy was different then. There were many species, all working together, all learning from each other." The hologram paused. The architect's face showed deep sadness. Then came the Empire. They called themselves peacekeepers, but they were conquerors. They wanted to control all technology, all knowledge, all power. Any species that refused to submit was labeled dangerous. We refused. We would not give up our freedom. We would not stop our research. So they destroyed us. Tae-young felt a chill run down his spine. The Empire. Is that what the Galactic Council used to be called? Dr. Mi-sun nodded slowly. The timeline matches. 50,000 years ago, the Council was formed from a coalition of the oldest species. They always said it was for peace and cooperation. But maybe that was never the real reason. The hologram continued. We leave this station for whoever finds it. Inside you will find our technology, our knowledge, our weapons. Use them wisely. Learn from our mistakes. Do not make the same errors we did. We tried to reason with the Empire. We tried diplomacy. We tried compromise. None of it worked. By the time we understood what we were dealing with, it was too late. The hologram raised one hand in what might have been a salute or a blessing. If you have found this place, then you are probably in danger. The patterns repeat. The Empire fears innovation. They fear change. They will try to stop you just as they stopped us. Do not let them fight, survive, build a better galaxy than the one we lost. The hologram faded. The team stood in silence for a long moment. We need to explore this entire station, Dr. Mi-sun said finally. If the architects left technology behind, it could change everything. They spent hours exploring. Every room they entered revealed new wonders. Laboratories filled with equipment they barely understood. Libraries containing data cores with millions of files. Manufacturing facilities that could build things at the molecular level. And most importantly, weapons. Weapons designed specifically to fight against Council technology. Engineer Sung-ho studied a weapon schematic with growing amazement. These weapons are designed to bypass Council shields. It is like the architects knew exactly what technology the Council would develop. Or the Council has not changed their technology in 50,000 years, Lieutenant Yunji suggested. Why improve when you already have total control? Captain Tae-young contacted the Resolute. Start downloading everything. Every file, every schematic, every piece of data. We are taking all of this back to Earth. Back on Earth, Dr. Bora received the first data packages and went very quiet. Admiral Jiwoo found her in her lab hours later, staring at screens filled with architect technology. This changes everything, Bora said softly. With this technology, we do not just have quantum drives. We have weapons, shields, power systems, everything we need to defend ourselves. Can we build it in time? Jiwoo asked. The Council's deadline is in 1 week. Bora smiled grimly. If we work day and night, if we use every factory on Earth, if we push our people to their absolute limits, then maybe. Just maybe. Jiwoo looked out at the stars. Then we work. Because I am tired of bowing to bullies who think they own the galaxy. High Arbiter Vextal sat in his private chamber aboard his flagship. Reports were coming in about the human ship that had vanished. His intelligence officers believed the humans had successfully tested their quantum drive. Even worse, the patrol ship had tracked their jump to an uncharted system. Vexatal's tail lashed in anger. The humans were more resourceful than he had expected. But it did not matter. Resources meant nothing against overwhelming military superiority. He composed a message to the full Galactic Council. The time for warnings was over. Earth would be made an example. Any species that dared to defy Council authority would see what happened to the humans and think twice before following their path. The President of Earth sat in the emergency session with leaders from every major nation. The room was tense. On the screens around them, data from the Architect Station scrolled past in endless streams. Weapon designs, shield specifications, power systems that could generate energy from nothing. It was overwhelming. Admiral Jiwoo stood at the front of the room, her face grim but determined. We have a choice to make. In 5 days, the Council's deadline expires. If we surrender our quantum drive research, we will be safe, for now. But we will remain slaves, forever under their control, forever limited by their rules. She pulled up images of the architect civilization at its height, cities that touched the clouds, ships that moved between stars like birds flying between trees, a society built on knowledge and freedom. This is what the architects built, Jiwoo continued. And this is what the Council destroyed because they were afraid. Afraid of competition, afraid of losing power, afraid that someone might build something better than what they had. She pulled up another image. This one showed ruins, burned worlds, empty cities floating in space. This is what the Council does to species who refuse to obey. The architects were not the first. They will not be the last, unless we stop them. The President leaned forward. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Admiral, are you suggesting we go to war with the entire Galactic Council? They have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. We have barely 300 combat vessels. I am suggesting we defend ourselves, Jiwoo replied. If we surrender now, we sign a death warrant for human civilization. Maybe not today, maybe not in 10 years, but eventually the Council will find an excuse to eliminate us, just like they eliminated the architects. Just like they eliminated dozens of other species whose names we will never know. Dr. Bora stepped forward. She looked exhausted. She had not slept in 3 days. Madam President, with the architect technology, we have a chance. Their weapons are designed to penetrate Council shields. Their power systems are 10 times more efficient than anything the Council has. Their quantum drives are faster and more precise than Council jump engines. We will not win by having more ships. We will win by having better ships. How long would it take to upgrade our fleet? The President asked. Every factory on Earth is working right now, Bora said. We are building architect weapons and shield generators as fast as we can. In 5 days we can have maybe 30 ships fully upgraded. In 2 weeks we could have 100. But we do not have 2 weeks. We have 5 days. Ambassador Hyojin spoke up from her seat. There might be another option. Not every species in the Council supports Vextal's aggressive policies. Some of the Tier 2 species are unhappy with their treatment. If we could show them proof of what the Council has done, proof of the architect genocide, we might convince them to support us. That is a big risk, the President said. If we reveal what we found and they do not support us, We lose the element of surprise. Everything is a risk now, Hyojin replied. But I know some delegates who are decent people. They believe in the Council's stated ideals of cooperation and peace. If they knew the truth, they might stand with us. The president looked around the room at all the faces, leaders of nations that had fought wars against each other for centuries. Now they had to stand together against a threat from the stars. Prepare the fleet, she said finally. Upgrade as many ships as possible. Ambassador Kang, you reach out to your contacts carefully. Very carefully. Admiral Park, you prepare battle plans. If the Council comes for us, we will be ready. Over the next 5 days, Earth transformed. Every shipyard worked at maximum capacity. Factories that had built cars and computers retooled to build weapons and shield generators. Dr. Bo-Ra barely left her lab, overseeing the integration of architect technology into Earth systems. The Resolute became the testbed for the new upgrades. Captain Tae-Young watched as his ship was systematically improved. The hull was reinforced with architect alloys that were lighter and stronger than anything humans had made. The weapons were replaced with energy cannons that could punch through Council shields. The engines were upgraded with architect power cores that generated nearly unlimited energy. It is like driving a completely different ship, he said to engineer Sung-Ho. Sung-Ho grinned. It is a completely different ship. The Resolute Mark I was a frigate. This is the Resolute Mark II, and she is a warship. Ambassador Hyojin worked through her network of contacts in the Council. She sent carefully worded messages to delegates she trusted. She shared pieces of the architect data, proof that the Council had been lying about its history. Some delegates refused to believe her, but others, especially those from Tier 2 and Tier 3 species, began asking questions. One of those delegates was Krelon, a representative from a species called the Voth. They were an aquatic people who had joined the Council 200 years ago. They had been promised equality but had received only restrictions and limitations. Krelon had always suspected the Council was not what it claimed to be. Now he had proof. He sent a secret message to Hyojin. The Council is preparing a war fleet. High Arbiter Vextal is not planning to just sanction Earth. He is planning to invade. The fleet will arrive in your system in 3 days. When Hyojin received the message, she felt her blood turn cold. 3 days. They had thought they had 5. The Council had moved up their timeline. She immediately contacted Admiral Jiwoo. The Admiral took the news calmly, but Hyojin could see the tension in her shoulders. How many ships do we have ready? Hyojin asked. 28 fully upgraded. Another 40 with partial upgrades. The rest of our fleet is still using standard equipment. Jiwoo pulled up a tactical display of Earth's orbital space. It will have to be enough. How many ships is the Council sending? Jiwoo's expression darkened. According to Delegate Krelon's intelligence, 200 warships. They are bringing a fleet large enough to conquer a major system. They want to make absolutely sure we cannot resist. 200 against 68, Hyojin whispered. Those are terrible odds. Yes, Jiwoo agreed. But the Council does not know about our upgrades. They think they are facing primitive human technology. They are going to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating Earth. She sent out orders to every ship in the fleet. Battle stations. Prepare for combat. This was going to be the fight of their lives. On the 3rd day, High Arbiter Vextal's armada arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 massive warships emerged from jump space in a display of overwhelming force. Their shields glowed with power. Their weapons were charged and ready. Vextal sent a message to Earth on all frequencies. His reptilian face filled every screen on the planet. Humans of Earth. You have violated galactic law by developing forbidden technology. You have defied the Council's direct orders. For these crimes, there can be only one punishment. Surrender your quantum drive research immediately. Surrender your ships. Surrender your weapons. If you comply, your species will be spared. If you resist, we will show you why the Galactic Council has ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. Earth held its breath. Admiral Jiwoo sat in her command chair aboard the flagship Enterprise. Around her, Earth's fleet waited. 68 ships against 200. It should have been hopeless, but Jiwoo smiled, because the Council had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humans would be afraid. They had assumed humans would surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. They did not understand humanity at all. Jiwoo opened a channel. Not just to Vextal, but to every Council ship, to every species watching. To the entire galaxy, High Arbiter Vextal. This is Admiral Jiwoo Park of the Earth Defense Fleet. I have your answer. No, we will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not be caged. If you want to suppress humanity, you will have to go through every single one of us. And I promise you, we will make you pay for every meter of space you take. Earth stands, today and always. High Arbiter Vextal stared at his screen in disbelief. The human admiral had refused. She had actually refused his ultimatum in front of the entire galaxy. His tail lashed in fury. Destroy them, he ordered coldly. All ships, attack. Show these primitives what happens when you defy the Council. The Council fleet moved forward in perfect formation. 200 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons charged with deadly energy. This was going to be a massacre. Admiral Jiwoo watched them come on her tactical display. She could feel her crew's tension. Everyone knew the odds. But no one suggested retreat. Not one single voice said they should surrender. All ships, she said calmly. Activate architect shields. Charge weapons. Prepare quantum drives for combat jumps. And remember, we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every species the Council has ever threatened. We are fighting for freedom itself. Across the fleet, systems that had been hidden suddenly came online. Shields that glowed with strange geometric patterns. Weapons that hummed with barely contained power. The Council ships detected the energy signatures and hesitated for just a moment. This was not the primitive technology they had expected, but it was too late to stop. The Council fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams lanced across space toward Earth's fleet. It should have been devastating. It should have destroyed half of humanity's ships in the first volley. Instead, the architect's shields held. The energy beams struck the geometric patterns and simply dispersed, spreading out harmlessly into space. Only 3 human ships took damage, and even that was minor. Return fire, Jiwoo ordered. Show them what we learned from the architects. Earth's fleet unleashed its weapons. The architect cannons fired beams of pure quantum energy that did something the Council had thought impossible. They passed straight through the Council's shields as if those shields did not exist at all. The first Council ship to be hit exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Then another. Then 3 more. In the first 30 seconds of combat, Earth destroyed 8 Council warships without taking a single loss. On his flagship, Vextal watched in horror as his ships died. How is this possible? Our shields should be impenetrable. His tactical officer's voice shook. High Arbiter, their weapons are using quantum phase technology. Our shields were never designed to stop that. The technology is ancient. We have no records of it. Then adapt. Modify our shield frequencies. We are trying, but it will take time. The humans knew exactly what they were doing. This was planned. Captain Tae-young led a squadron of 10 ships in a daring attack run. The Resolute and her sister ships used their quantum drives to jump in microbursts, appearing and disappearing around the Council fleet like ghosts. Every time they appeared, they fired. Every time they fired, a Council ship died or took critical damage. This is incredible, Lieutenant Yoonji said from her station. The quantum drive lets us jump every few seconds. The Council ships cannot track us at all. Keep hitting them, Tae-young ordered. Do not give them time to adapt. We need to do as much damage as possible before they figure out a counter-strategy. Commander Jae-hyun-shin commanded Earth's orbital defense platforms. These had been considered obsolete relics of an earlier era. But with architect upgrades, they had become deadly weapons. He waited until the Council fleet moved within range, then opened fire with everything he had. The defense platforms used architect missile technology. The missiles were small and fast, almost impossible to track. More importantly, they could adjust their trajectory mid-flight using mini-quantum jumps. Even the Council's point defense systems could not stop them. 12 Council ships were hit by the missile barrage. 6 exploded immediately. The others were crippled and drifting. The battle raged for 2 hours. Space around Earth became a graveyard of burning ships and debris, but for every human ship that fell, 3 or 4 Council ships died. The mathematics were brutal and simple. Earth was winning. Admiral Jiwoo did not celebrate. She knew this was just the beginning. The Council had thousands more ships. This fleet was just the first wave. But today humanity had proven something important. They had proven they could fight back. Dr. Bora watched the battle from her lab on Earth. Every time a human ship was destroyed, she felt it like a physical blow. Those were real people dying up there. people she might have known, but she forced herself to focus on her work. She was analyzing the Council's shield frequencies, looking for weaknesses, sending real-time updates to the fleet. Their shields are adapting, she reported to Ji-Woo. They are starting to block some of our shots. But I found a pattern. If we rotate our weapon frequencies every 30 seconds, we can stay ahead of their adaptations. Send the frequency rotation pattern to all ships, Ji-Woo ordered. And Bora, good work. You just saved lives. High Arbiter Vextal finally accepted what his officers had been telling him. This battle was lost. The humans had technology he had never seen before. Technology that seemed designed specifically to counter Council weapons. He had lost over 60 ships. 60 ships! Against a species that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. Order the fleet to retreat, he said, the words tasting like poison. Fall back to the outer system and regroup. As the Council ships began to disengage and jump away, a cheer erupted across Earth's fleet. They had done it. They had faced the mighty Galactic Council and forced them to retreat, but Admiral Ji-Woo did not cheer. She was counting their losses. 15 ships destroyed, 23 damaged, over 2,000 people dead. And this was just the first battle. Captain Tae-young brought the Resolute back to the fleet. His ship had taken some hits, but nothing critical. He opened a channel to Ji-Woo. Admiral, we won. We actually won. We won a battle, Ji-Woo corrected. The war is just beginning. Vextal will not accept this defeat. He will come back with more ships, more weapons, and next time he will know what we have. On his retreating flagship, Vextal was thinking the same thing, but his thoughts were darker and more terrible. He had tried to subdue Earth with conventional force. That had failed. Now he would have to use measures he had hoped to avoid. He opened a secure channel to the full Galactic Council. The transmission would take hours to reach them, but it would deliver a message that would shake the galaxy. Council members, this is High Arbiter Vextal. I am formally requesting authorization to invoke protocol extinction against the species known as humans. They possess technology that threatens the stability of the entire galactic order. They have already proven they will use this technology against us. If we do not act now decisively and permanently, they will spread their rebellion to other species. The infection must be cut out before it spreads. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. I am requesting deployment of the Planet Killer fleet. We must destroy Earth itself. No survivors, no mercy. It is the only way to be certain. The message was sent. Across the galaxy, council members would receive it and debate. But Vextal knew what the decision would be. The council had survived for 50,000 years by eliminating threats before they could grow too powerful. The humans had proven they were such a threat. Earth had won its first battle. But it had also guaranteed that the council would never stop until humanity was extinct. The real war was about to begin. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly knew their name. The story was incredible. A Tier 3 species, the lowest of the low, had defeated a council armada of 200 warships. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. But it had happened. Ambassador Hee-jin saw an opportunity. She immediately began broadcasting the full story to every species in council space. Not just the battle, but everything. The Architect Station. The proof that the council had committed genocide 50,000 years ago. The evidence that they had been systematically suppressing any species that showed too much potential. The reaction was explosive. Many of the older, more powerful species tried to dismiss it as human propaganda, but the younger species, the ones still classified as Tier 2 and Tier 3, began asking questions, dangerous questions. Why were they not allowed to develop certain technologies? Why did the council restrict their expansion? Why were they treated as second-class citizens in a government that claimed to value all species equally? Delegate Krelan of the Voth people was one of the first to act. He stood up in the council chamber during an emergency session and denounced High Arbiter Vextal directly. You lied to us, Krelan said, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. You told us the council was founded to bring peace and cooperation, but the humans have shown us the truth. This council was founded to maintain control, to suppress anyone who might challenge the old powers. Vextal's tail lashed angrily. Delegate Krelan, you are out of order. The humans are criminals who stole forbidden technology. Forbidden by whom? Krelan demanded. Forbidden by you. Forbidden by a council that fears progress because it threatens your power. The humans developed their quantum drive on their own. They did not steal it. They invented it. And you tried to crush them for that achievement. Other delegates began to speak up. Not many at first, but enough to matter. Representatives from a dozen different Tier 2 species stood and walked out of the chamber in protest. It was a shocking display of defiance. High Arbiter Vextal watched them leave with cold fury. His authority was cracking. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. If the Council fell apart, if the lower-tier species rebelled, the entire galactic order would collapse. He made his decision. The walkouts are traitors. Any species that supports the human rebellion will face the same fate as Earth. I am authorizing protocol extinction. The Planet Killer Fleet will deploy immediately. The Planet Killer Fleet was the Council's ultimate weapon, 50 massive dreadnoughts, each one carrying weapons capable of cracking a planet's crust and destroying all life. They had been used only 3 times in the Council's long history. Each time they had successfully eliminated an entire species, but something had changed. When Vextal gave the order, several Council species refused to contribute their ships. The fleet that assembled was only half the size he had planned. Worse, intelligence reports indicated that some species were actively sending information to Earth, warning them of the attack. On Earth, Admiral Jiwoo received those warnings with grim determination. She knew the Planet Killer Fleet was coming. She knew that even with Architect technology, Earth could not stop 50 dreadnoughts. They needed something more. Captain Tae-young had an idea. He took the Resolute back to the Architect station, this time with a specialized team. Dr. Mi-sun led them deeper into the station than they had gone before, following clues in the Architect database. What they found changed everything. The Architects had not just built one station. They had built hundreds scattered across the entire galaxy. Each one was a defensive platform, armed with weapons specifically designed to destroy Planet Killer-class vessels. They had been dormant for 50,000 years waiting for someone to activate them. But there is a problem, Dr. Mi-sun said, studying the activation codes. To turn on the entire network, we need to input activation codes at multiple stations simultaneously, at least 10 stations across the galaxy. We only have one ship that can make those jumps fast enough, Tae-young said, the Resolute. But even with our quantum drive, we cannot be in 10 places at once. Ambassador Heejin had the answer. She reached out to Delegate Krelon and the other species that had walked out of the Council. She made them an offer. Help us activate the Architect Defense Network. If you do, Earth will share all the Architect technology we have recovered. No restrictions. No conditions. A new galactic order where all species stand equal. The response was overwhelming. 13 species volunteered their fastest ships. Captain Tae-young provided them with the coordinates and activation codes. Together, they raced across the galaxy to reach the Architect stations before the Planet Killer Fleet arrived at Earth. It was a desperate plan. Everything had to work perfectly. If even one activation failed, the network would not come online. If they were too slow, Earth would be destroyed before help arrived. On Earth, people watched the skies with fear and hope mixed together. They knew what was coming. They knew that in a few days an unstoppable fleet would arrive to end their world. But they also knew that humanity had allies now. For the first time, they were not alone. Dr. Bora worked day and night preparing Earth's defenses. Even if the Architect network activated, they would still need to fight. She upgraded every defense platform, every ship, every weapon system she could reach. Earth would go down fighting if it came to that. The Planet Killer Fleet arrived at Earth 3 days later. 25 massive dreadnoughts, each one the size of a small city. Their weapons could turn the planet's surface into molten rock. High Arbiter Vextal commanded them personally from his flagship. He broadcast a final message to Earth. This is your last chance. Surrender now and we will spare some of your species. You can live as slaves, but you will live. Refuse, and we will erase every trace of humanity from existence. Admiral Jiwoo's response was broadcast across the galaxy. We will never surrender. We will never bow. We would rather die free than live as slaves. Come and take us if you can. Vextal gave the order to fire. The Planet Killer weapons began charging. It would take 30 seconds for them to reach full power. 30 seconds for Earth's defenses to try to stop the unstoppable. Admiral Jiwoo watched the countdown. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. and then space itself seemed to tear open. All around the planet-killer fleet, massive structures emerged from quantum space. The Architect defense stations had activated, hundreds of them appearing simultaneously across the entire galaxy. Each one locked its weapons onto the nearest Council dreadnought. Captain Tae-young's voice came over the communications channel. "Activation successful, Admiral. The Architect network is online. All stations reporting ready." Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile. Then she opened a channel directly to High Arbiter Vextal. Her voice was cold and hard. "High Arbiter, I believe the situation has changed. You are surrounded by weapons you cannot defend against. Your fleet is outmatched and outgunned, so let me make you an offer. Surrender. Disarm your weapons. Withdraw your fleet. Do this and your crews will live. Refuse and you will learn why the Architects were feared across the galaxy." Vextal stared at his tactical display in horror. The ancient stations surrounded his fleet completely. His sensors were screaming warnings. The energy signatures from those weapons were off the scale. If they fired, his fleet would be annihilated. But surrender to a Tier 3 species? It was unthinkable. It would destroy his authority forever. The Council would never recover from such humiliation. His tactical officer spoke quietly. "High Arbiter, we should accept. We cannot win this battle." Vextal's clawed hand hovered over the fire control. One press and the planet-killer weapons would activate. Earth would die. But so would his entire fleet. Was his pride worth that cost? Before he could decide, his communication officer interrupted. "High Arbiter, we are receiving messages from our fleet. Multiple ships are standing down. They are refusing to fire." "What?" "The crews are mutinying, sir. They say this war is lost. They say continuing will only bring more death." Vextal looked around his bridge. Even his own officers were watching him with doubt in their eyes. They knew. Everyone knew. The Council's era of absolute power was over. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council had lost.